Hey, it's Mr. A here to talk to you about some shapes. If you happen to have access to one of these shape baggies, it would be super helpful for you to follow along and check out some of these shape qualities with me. If you don't have access to a baggie, that's totally fine. You can just watch what I do with the shapes. But if you do have it, you can go ahead and get those shapes out at this time. So as we think about shapes, there are qualities and what are fancier word, attributes of shapes that we can recognize, characteristics and things that define a shape. So for example, we know that shapes have angles, we know that shapes have lines, and the way that those lines come together create different angles. So some shapes, like a square, have 90-degree angles, and we know that because they're called right angles, and those two lines are perpendicular. Super big fancy word for two lines that come together and make a right angle or a 90-degree angle. Sometimes we have angles that are acute. So on this blue triangle, this angle is less than 90 degrees. It doesn't quite make a right angle. We also have some angles that are obtuse. So on this hexagon, six-sided shape, I see that this angle down here is greater than 90 degrees. We also have different types of lines. I mentioned perpendicular, which are two lines that make a right angle. We also have lines that are called parallel. Parallel lines are two lines that if they were to continue on forever and ever, they would never touch. So like on this red shape here, we can see the top line and the bottom line, if they continued on forever and ever, would be parallel. The sides on the left and right, if these lines were to continue on, we know that they would meet, and those are called intersecting lines. So shapes have angles and shapes have sides. And based upon those angles and those sides, we can categorize those shapes. Let's maybe start with the sides. I know that this green triangle and this blue triangle only have three sides. They're the only shapes with three sides. I know that this purple rectangle, this blue rhombus, this red trapezoid, this yellow parallelogram, and this orange square all have four sides, making them quadrilaterals. Quad means four. Just like you ride a quad, it's a four-wheeled vehicle, and a shape with four sides is a quadrilateral. Meanwhile, there are another category of shapes that just have more than four sides. They don't really have a name other than essentially that they are polygons. A polygon is a shape with at least three sides. So a triangle is a polygon, a quadrilateral is a polygon, but also hexagons and heptagons and pentagons and octagons and all those gons with more than four sides are polygons because they have straight edges and the shape is closed. There's no roundedness to it. So as we look at these different shapes, we can see that we have two different types of triangles over here. Triangles can be classified by their sides as well as by their angles. What do you notice about the sides on this green triangle? Yeah, they're all equal, right? It's an equivalent triangle or an equilateral triangle, meaning all sides are the same. This blue triangle looks close. I can tell that two of the sides are the same. We would call this an isosceles triangle. You have two eyes, and when you have two eyes that are the same in a triangle that's isosceles, two sides are equivalent with one side being different. We have all of these shapes that can be qualified and classified as quadrilaterals, meaning that they have four sides. Now we can get a little bit more specific because all of these, yes, are quadrilaterals, but they all have different names as well. A square and a parallelogram and a trapezoid and a rhombus and a rectangle. If we were to think about, which of these is the least specific, I would put the trapezoid at the top. Why? Because it has one pair of parallel sides, at least one pair. Then if I look, I say, ooh, I've got a parallelogram. A parallelogram has at least one pair of parallel sides. It actually has two pairs of parallel sides. Then I've got a rhombus, which is a four-sided shape where all sides are the same. You can see they're all equal. They just don't have all right angles. And I have a rectangle, which is a four-sided shape where opposite sides are equal, and it has four right angles, with a square being the most specific. It has four equal sides, four right angles, two pairs of parallel lines. So that's one way we can classify all those quadrilaterals. Then we've got this guy out here off by himself, a hexagon, because it doesn't have three sides, it doesn't have four sides, it has more than four sides. But all of these shapes are polygons because polygons are shapes with at least 3 sides that have straight edges and closed sides. So I hope this was a little bit helpful with learning the beginnings of shapes, talking about their lines, their angles, and how we can start to classify these guys together. Why don't you try a few of these questions on your own?